Well, hello everybody. Louise Eddington of Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am your wisdom weaver and cyberpunk priestess, witch priestess to the stars. And this is about take 4 because of multiple cat kerfufflings. But now I have no cats in my office. They've shut out and my husband got home and he's sorting them out. This is the week ahead forecast for the week beginning December the 28th. But before I dive in, I would like to wish you all a happy holiday because I'm recording this on the 24th. And I would like to express my gratitude for all the new subscribers on YouTube that have gained this year and any new followers on the podcast side of it. I also send it out as a podcast on Substack and to all the podcast places, I guess. And I would like to invite everybody who listens to this to my Spiral Weave membership if you're interested. You can join either through YouTube at the $9.99 a month level, or through Substack, or through my website. And all those three places will lead you to a free invite to a private space, community space that in a new platform I have started using. And in that space, you get one Ask Me Almost Anything call a month on the first Thursday. January's got two because few reasons, but there's two in January. And I'm going to start doing a mid-month tarot spread for Spiral Weave members. And I'm sure as the membership grows, I'll probably add extra things. So come join us. I also have a Spiral Codex membership for those that want a much deeper integration and learning more actual astrology. That gives you various other benefits. You can also check that out on my website, louiseeddington.com. But 2026 is going to be a big year for me. So I'm going to be offering a series immersion workshop in early March. Watch for details of that. We also have a Venus retrograde in the fall. And so it will be my 6th Venus retrograde heroine's journey, which is my signature course. So watch for that as well. There'll be an early bird offer. And I'm running an OPA membership mentorship group. So if you're a practicing astrologer and want to grow your astrology practice, I'm offering a 6 months mentoring group through OPA. And I will be running a peer group for OPA in September in Chicago before UAC, the biggest astrology conference ever. So if you're going for OPA certification, you can do an in-person peer group with me. OPA are renting 5-bedroom Airbnbs, so we live together for 3 days in a house in Chicago. So that sounds fun, right? And what else was I going to say? That's everything, I think. I don't want to overload you with things, but I have got a big year ahead. And my personal focus is growing my memberships so that I have more time to do other things. Members get priority and get discounts on consultations with me if they want them as well. They get priority to access the consultations. Yeah, and I've got another book to write, but anyway, somehow I'll get it all done. So as usual, this is for the week, December the 28th through to January the 3rd. So it takes us right into 2026. We have Chiron stationing direct and we have a full moon. So it's, yes, another big week, as if anything isn't right now. But we are in amazing times. So here are the cards I've pulled for the week. As usual, I will go through them all at the end, one by one. But there's one thing I want to say after I've shown you them. So we have the 3 of discs, 3 of cups, the Queen, which is another 3. That's very significant. 3 threes. And then I pulled a card, a lovely card from the Witch Oracle deck as well, which is the Wonder Hunter. Just see her. Okay. All right, so before I'll go through all those cards at the end. Let's dive into the astrology. Let me share the chart. As usual, I'm going to kind of start with where we're at. Okay, so on December the 28th, Sunday, the first day of the week that I used to start on, we still have the moon's nodes at 11 degrees. They've been sat there for a little bit, but you can see that all of the energy is moving forward here. We now, at the start of the 28th, have Venus, the Sun, and Mars all in Capricorn, and they are approaching a major conflagration around January the 6th. I'll talk about more in another video, of course. We still have Mercury in Sagittarius at the start of the week. Black Moon Lilith is still going back and forth through Sagittarius, back into Scorpio a little bit, but not often now. Black Moon Lilith is going to start going into Capricorn as well. Hecate has moved into Capricorn as well, out of Sagittarius. So we had that big Sagittarius new moon on December the 19th that was right on the galactic center, with 3i Atlas right closest to Earth on that day. And we had so much energy in Sagittarius at that point, but it's all leaving. And Juno is about to leave Sagittarius. So that energy of fire is all coming into this energy of Capricorn, which is much more determined, much more focused, much more diligent, and determined to get things done. Okay, but pattern-wise, they're all moving towards these energies, right? Other things, what else would I like to point? I've actually included Okiroe on this chart, which is the child of Chiron, and Chariklo, his wife. And I'll talk more about why I'm including her in the chart when I get to that, when I get to Chiron stationing direct. Neptune is still at the anaretic degree of Pisces, has moved about 5 solar arc minutes is all. Saturn is moving faster though, and moving towards Neptune. They are both finishing their journeys still at the very end of Pisces in the zodiac. So, and we start the week with the moon in Aries. Okay, let me go through the aspects for December the 28th. So things are changing is the point, really. You know, we had that big mutable new moon, and truth is coming out. I said it would. The Epstein files are gradually being released, and more truth's coming out, and people are seeing the truth more and more. People are waking up. You know, I'm not going to go through all the political ones, but everywhere people are starting to wake up. And I can feel the change coming, and I think those cards reflect it as well. But the very first big aspect of the day, as we start December the 28th, is an opposition from Juno in Sagittarius, which is the sacred contracts we have with ourselves, each other, and the earth. And it's kind of like the yin yang symbol in many ways, and it is opposing Hygeia, which is preventative health in Gemini. And this is more truth coming out and saying, what do we need to do about this to heal and prevent this happening again? So we're kind of getting a big hard look at all this information and stuff we're learning and things that we're changing our perspective on. Okay, but if you notice, it's also in a T-square with Neptune. So this is a big shift again, and at the anaretic degree, that means more changes coming. So they may be so-called minor objects and asteroids, but this is just an ongoing process of more truth being revealed that is changing where we're headed, the trajectory. And so then the moon, as I mentioned, is in Aries. The moon will actually come up and conjunct Okiroe and will make sextile Okiroe's mother. Okiroe is kind of a seer energy, by the way. She is the divine child in a way, and so anyway, she is sextile to Chariklo. Chariklo is that spinner of grace who has been holding space for us to weave this new story. And here we have them in fire and air starting to speak to each other. But the moon, our emotions in Aries, is really wanting to drive forward. We're heading towards a full moon. So we're in the action phase, right? We are wanting to be the healing that we, because of what's coming out in the world. Okay, many things going on. The moon will then also sextile Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena is the strategist, that wise justice warrior. And in Aquarius, all these patterns are being pulled together, these pieces. People are starting to see the patterns more and more. And then the moon will square Jupiter, and that's expanding the emotions. Jupiter is in the moon's sign, but the moon is moving towards Jupiter. This is saying we can birth something new, okay, from these ashes of what's collapsing around us. The moon will then conjunct Chiron. So there's the divine mother, the divine father, and the divine child there. But Chiron is the key to healing. He's the medicine. He's the medicine for the wound as well as the wound. He's what we need to do to heal. And Chiron is stationed. So he's potent, saying we are ready to change. And so again, I'll talk more about the station of Chiron when we get there. The moon will then square Vesta as well, which is the inner flame, but also the state of the hearth, right? And the moon will then trine Mercury, and they're all at 22 degrees. Look, Chiron at 22 degrees, Vesta at 22 degrees, Mercury at 22 degrees. The master builder number, a master number, more truth coming out, but more people speaking out the truth and saying we cannot do this, we have to change. Okay. And this is happening within all of us, right? So, and the last lunar aspect is that the moon will conjunct Eris on the 28th. Table shaker, turning some tables, speaking out for the outsider, for the survivors, for, all of these things at all levels. The only other big aspect is Neptune will exactly square Hygeia, but we kind of looked at that with that opposition that we started with. So let's move on to the 29th. So we start with a day of really wanting action, right? Aries moon wants action and it's driving forward. And we start the week with these planets all speaking to each other, planetary bodies, at the anaretic degree, that liminal space of that we want things to change. They've got to change. On to the Monday, the 29th. The moon will finish up its journey in Aries and will move into the sign of Taurus at 6:57 a.m. So the only aspect before the aspects before moving into Taurus are that the moon will get to the anaretic degree, 29 degrees of Aries, and aspect that opposition. Okay, so again, take action on what we want to heal, what we want to change. We do see it happening everywhere. People are waking up. I had a client yesterday. We've worked together for a long time, and she was like, Tucker Carlson's even waking up. And I was like, it's happening. Maybe not as much as we'd like, but it's happening. Okay, so before I talk about the moon in Taurus, we also have Mercury over here, has moved already to 24 degrees, right? And will make a fire trine to Eris, table turner. We are turning the tables. Things are shaking, rattling, and rolling. Okay. What's being revealed is just going to change everything, and it's changing everything for all of us, and we can all play our part. Okay. Then Mars over here. Remember, Mars is still out of bounds, by the way. And Mars is said to be exalted in Capricorn, which can mean it operates at peak potential, which means it can be a little bit pushy, or more than a little bit, but also Mars is out of bounds, and Mars is the guide for Aries, for all that Aries that is activated on the first 2 days of this week. And this is like, if you think about the energies of Aries and Capricorn, they're both horned, the ram and the sea goat, the goat with the horns. And so this is really pushing forward, headbutting, saying we've had enough of this. And Mars is so flipping determined in this sign. And I realize I have not added Pholus or Nessus. I think the cats disturbed me as I was doing that, so I'm just going to add them back in because they are very significant at the moment. These centaurs, they've come in to help us heal, by the way. So, but anyway, Mars will reach Pholus, which is the lid comes off. It's that kind of cause and effect. It's taking an inventory of the rules, what's coming out, but also an inner inventory, okay, so that we can be determined to change things, okay, as we move into this new paradigm. All right, so then I am actually going to move the moon to Taurus. I don't always do this, but I think there's a big shift then as well, because we start with this real push with these cardinal signs that is saying we want to initiate change. We want to, we want to push, make this change happen. And we're heading towards this, full moon, which is heightened energy as well. But anyway, the moon enters Taurus, though, at 6:57 a.m. on Monday. And, that's more embodied, more rooted. We can kind of say, all right, what do we really want to manifest through this? But right after the moon moves into Taurus, Juno will move into Capricorn. So suddenly we're in more Earth, okay? We're in, we are going to fix this. We are going to make things real. We are going to create this change, okay, in our own lives as well as others. But the moon in Taurus will, over here, will trine Hecate, the way shower, at this major crossroads. And in Earth, again, this is saying, what are we going to build based on these really rooted values? What are we going to change and build and make real and say no to? Okay. Then the moon will square Pluto. And Pluto, of course, is bringing some real... in the sign of Aquarius, I feel like Pluto is revealing the shadow of kind of what we've been complacent about and where we've given our power away to the opposite sign, the rulers, the oligarchs, whatever you want to call them. And Pluto's in the sign of the people and humanitarianism. And Pluto's digging in and showing us where we've really let them kind of do this. Yes, they have seized as well, but we have not taken our power away. And Pluto takes away what you thought was your power and gives you what is truly your power. And so we are realizing that we are all part of this and must play our part. And then the moon will oppose Haumea, which is regeneration in Scorpio. So we are literally really digging into how and what we are changing and rebirthing at all levels. Then the moon in Taurus will trine Venus. Venus is in her underworld still, right till February the 17th. She's been behind the sun. She's less accessible, but that kind of means that we are kind of integrating and going deeper and saying, okay, what are these values? What are these values that we all share? And because Taurus is very much related to values, Venus is the guide for the sign of Taurus. Also, Ceres is associated with Taurus, so you can see that Venus and Ceres are at 6 degrees, which is the number of the Divine Mother. Okay, so after the moon trines Venus, Venus will square series. So I'm going to kind of show you the lineup. No. Oh, she was square. Oh my God. I hate when I do that. Apologies. Let's get back to where we're at. December the 29th. Ceres will square off to Venus. Now, if you've read my book, you will know that I really connect Venus, Ceres, and Pluto very much together. I also think Ceres is a missing person or planet. So Venus went retrograde in this area of the chart in March of 2025. Ceres stationed direct at the same degree that Venus and the Sun met on March the 20th, I think, or 21st of 2025. But Venus has been kind of going away from Ceres ever since then. They last met at 0 Aquarius on December the 7th, 2024 with Pluto. But now Venus is approaching her mother again. We are reaching this reunification energy of, mother and child, or you could say also kind of lost innocence and healing. But it involves a lot of those themes of the Demeter Persephone Hades myth, which is really about integration and reunification at the end of it. Okay, so this is all at 6, 6, 6, and where's the moon? At 6 in Venus sign. This is saying that in this healing and this intimacy will come from the inside out. And while we are in this period with Venus behind the sun, Mars is also under the beams of the sun. Mercury is going to head under the beams of the sun. Amazing lineup coming up. We are being asked to really go within and then heal from the inside out, if you like, as well. Okay, everybody, and also collectively. It's huge. But I love that these are all meeting at 6 degrees, which is the number of the Divine Mother. It is the Divine Feminine in a way. It's the Great Mother number. It's the 6, the feminine. We are moving into more integrative. We're in this together. Masculine, feminine, doesn't matter what gender. We have to unite right, left brain, all of those things, and come together. And it has to start within, as I keep saying. Then Mars will actually aspect the nodes, pushing us towards this interconnectedness again, which is where we're headed, this Piscean energy at 11, which is another master number of opportunity and enlightenment and creation. Now we finish on the 29th with the moon over here will come up and trine the sun. So the moon is really now moving towards the full moon. This is like the last major phase before the full moon. We are really kind of building and saying we're starting to create what based on what's coming out. However, I don't think things will really start to change till after the big eclipse on February the 17th, when Venus emerges from the underworld and things really start to change. But we don't want to get too ahead. But it's starting. People are doing more of the inner work right now. And then lastly, the Taurus moon will sextile talk to the hand asteroid Lilith, who is approaching this Pisces North Node. This is kind of the original energy of the divine feminine saying, no, you're not putting baby back in the corner. And it is about more than women. This is about everything. This is about the earth, all these feminine energies, all our senses, everything. It's reflected by, they're all players in this game, but by the apparent occupant of the White House cancelling all this building of renewable energy in wind farms that are in the ocean, saying, no, we're not building them. And people are going to start looking at all this and saying, what are you doing? Anyway, the planets do not compel, they impel, as Steve Judd says, and it's somebody else has said, but they are sure pushing us right now to change, and people are changing. So let me go on to the next day. So on to Tuesday, December the 30th. The calendar year is almost over, and Mercury is now at 25 degrees, conjunct Black Moon Lilith, but they keep speaking to each other. But this is on the way out of Sagittarius too. You can see that he's almost done the journey. But this is very close to that degree of that December the 19th new moon. Okay. So more new information, new awarenesses, higher consciousness is coming through. We are being led here, or given an opportunity to open our minds in huge ways. And then the moon is still in Taurus. So let's look at the lunar aspects. The moon will trine Pholus, so inventory, cause and effect of everything. And then we'll trine Mars. Okay, what action are we going to take on this? And how are we going to be determined and solid and rooted in our values to move forward and make this change come? But we keep addressing this. Then Mercury. No, let's finish with the moon. And then the moon will sextile Nessus, another centaur. These centaurs are really speaking loudly at the moment, and Nessus is outing the toxins, the poisons, the abuses of power that are keeping us from realizing that we are interconnected, and they are working together in huge ways. Interestingly, no, I'll talk about that in a minute, but they are kind of lining up at very similar degrees, if you notice. Here is Chariklo, 19 degrees, Nessus, 18, Okiroi, the divine child, 19, Chiron, 22. This is going to get even more except for Pholus, but that's, some of them are really speaking to each other. And there are many theories amongst astrologers and astronomers in many ways that these centaurs have come in to heal, to help us to heal this mess that we've got ourselves in and created as humans. But they've also got very comet-like figures. So I would take you back to my interview with Bibhu Dev Misra, and about how comets have been a part of the big shifts as we move out of the Kali Yuga and into the ascending cycle. Personally, I don't think the comets have to hit Earth. We can have some cataclysmic energies without that, and on the Earth and energetically. But there's no prediction of a comet hitting the Earth, but we'll see. It might do. Anyway, so the moon sextiles Nessus, then we'll square Chariklo, the spinner of grace, so they're all speaking together. We'll sextile Jupiter, making this a big expansion of consciousness, again, because Jupiter's retrograde, and more truth coming out because Jupiter's retrograde. And then the moon will square Pallas Athena, the strategist, saying, okay, I see more pieces. What can we build? Master builder number. Can't make this stuff up. And then the moon will trine Vesta again, the inner flame, but also the hearth, the state. But there's one other big aspect on that day. Mercury, I'll come back to it again, squares off with Saturn. Again, it's one of these closing cycles. This is like the last quarter moon, the crisis in consciousness and faith. Whatever's being revealed is causing many people to have a bit of a crisis of faith and of higher consciousness. It's causing us to reflect on our beliefs and our perceptions and what we've always thought was true, and to shift and to change, because these are mutable signs, and to let go of self-limiting beliefs that suggest that we can't do that. Okay. December the 31st, Wednesday. The moon finishes up its journey in Taurus, with a sextile to Saturn. So we end the day with Mercury square to Saturn, and now the moon joins in emotions saying, okay, I feel this. I really do feel this. This is a real deep inner shift to create change from the inside out, healing from the inside out. Then the moon conjuncts Uranus, which is now at its 27-degree mark, which is the degree it will later station direct at. This is pretty much conjunct Algol as well. This is rebel, yell, revolutionary. We're almost at the full moon as well. So things are heating up and we are going, I can't do this. We have to have radical change again. And then the moon will sextile Neptune, saying, this crisis of faith is pushing this change. We are waking up in so many ways. And then the moon will move into Gemini for a couple of days. I'm not going to move the chart this time on that one, because the moon will conjunct Sedna, which is, a huge harbinger of change, saying, alliances are changing, perceptions are changing, how we communicate is changing, everything's changing like that. How we live in community is changing. That's a big one. But the moon activates Sedna every month, but this month it happens to be right before a full moon. So, it's pretty heightened again. And then the sun will, let me finish with the lunar aspects. The moon will trine Pluto. So again, digging into these old beliefs and letting go of what we thought was our power and changing our perceptions. Will sextile Ceres. How do we make sure our needs are met both individually and collectively? Because we have not been meeting each other's needs or our own often in the culture that we're in. This is why I preach self-care all the time. Anyway, and that's it for the moon's aspects. So let's go back to the sun at 9 degrees Capricorn. Can you see how this is all piling up now? Venus is really close to the sun. The sun is getting closer to Mars. The sun is going to hit Pholus. This is all piling up in Capricorn. I'll be talking at length about that later, but this is big because this is wisdom, elder wisdom, but it's also the structures we live under. So, Chiron. Remember, Chiron is about to station direct. Chiron sextiles Pallas Athena at that master builder number, okay? And so, Chiron, what medicine do we need to heal these wounds? In this power over paradigm, I'm going to call it, not the divine masculine really, because the divine masculine has high energy, but we have been embodying the lower energy of that power over, kind of doing, control, domination, all of that kind of thing. Pallas Athena is saying, I'm going to give you some ideas to change and to bring that medicine in. Okay, we've been working on it for a bit, but it's potent today. Then Mercury reaches the last degree of Sagittarius, where we started with Juno there, and opposes Hygeia and squares off to Neptune, bringing the truth and the ideas and the changing perceptions into this journey that we're on. Okay, on to January the 1st. Happy New Year, everybody. It's only a day, but it's the calendar New Year. Really, the solstice was the new year for me. The light's returning. We're going to, anyway. The sun will meet Pholus, shining that big old light on taking an inventory. Where have we been in integrity? And where's the structures we live under been in integrity or out of integrity? Taking that inventory, the lid's off. It's like Pandora's box. We can't unsee it anymore. Okay, that we've taken the lid off and we can't go back. But everything's moving closer and closer together as well. As you see, this is really the ending of these big cycles, in so lots of them. Anyway, the moon in Gemini, let me just check. I don't think it's out of bounds yet. Oh, yes, it is. The moon's well out of bounds this month because we're still at lunar maximum, right? It probably went out of bounds in Taurus, actually. I'm not going back to see it, but it's well out of bounds, as well as Mars being out of bounds. Venus is going out of bounds too. She's now out of bounds. In fact, oh my goodness. In fact, let me just go back a little bit. I'll have to check my dates, but I've got them somewhere. But I do know that all three are going out of bounds at one point. So I'm just going back a little bit, because bear with me. 23, 27. Okay, all week. Well, we get the moon out of bounds later, but this whole week has Mercury goes out of bounds, doesn't start the week out of bounds, goes out of bounds on the Monday, I think. Venus is out of bounds now. Mars is out of bounds. Things feel really extraordinary right now. They feel like, things are a little bit out of control, a little bit eccentric, but that's bringing in what we need to see. This out of bounds energy is going, look how far out of bounds things have gone, with three of these planets all going out of bounds together. So they're still out of bounds Wednesday. The moon has now gone out of bounds, so it goes out of bounds on Tuesday. Now we have the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars all out of bounds. Okay. And just seeing if anything else is. I don't think so. No. Wow, this is amazing. What a new year start. Things might be a bit heightened and crazy energetically on New Year's Eve. So kind of just, have a quiet one, I would do. I would recommend with close friends. And so the moon is way out of bounds by Thursday, by New Year's Day. Mercury is now out of bounds. Venus, Mars, still both out of bounds. This is 4 of the most personal planets. Obviously, the sun can't go out of bounds because the sun is on the ecliptic, going out of bounds, acting out of character, being eccentric, and it's just before a full moon. This is kind of a crazy week again. So, okay, wow. And then that out of bounds moon squares off to asteroid Lilith. Okay, I'm just going to check my ephemeris before I post this and put it in the description, what dates these planets are out of bounds, or planetary bodies. Okay, but the moon squares off to asteroid Lilith. She's there about to hit the north node, saying, talk to the hand, we've had enough. We know we're interconnected. We know we have to change to heal, or probably we're all going to die, kind of thing. Woo. Anyway, then the out of bounds moon squares the nodes while asteroid Lilith is on it. That's always a turning point. This is the moon in Gemini, getting close to the degree of the Gemini full moon that we had on December the 4th. Squares to the nodes, because that full moon was square the nodes. And this is mutable signs. Change, change, change. But this is another push towards that change, building on what really kicked into gear on that Gemini full moon on December the 4th. Think how much things have started to shift since then in all of us. But joining that party as well, the sun will aspect the nodes. So now we've got all this stuff lining up at 10 degrees. We've got the moon gets to 10 degrees, the nodes are at 10 degrees. That's all a T-square with asteroid Lilith there. Pholus and the sun are speaking to all of this as well. So this is new beginnings 1:10, saying we get this. Things have to change, and they will. Okay, moving on January the 1st, Mercury over here will reach that anaretic degree of Sagittarius. Right now it's on the galactic center again, will square Neptune. More shifting perceptions, but also shifting beliefs and shifting clarity about faith and belief and what we trust and what we have faith in and the future and what we are going to build after all these things change signs later. Okay, so then Vesta over here will square off to Eris. So this is, the state, the hearth, your inner flame moving towards, but this is the table turner. We're going to see tables turning more and more. I think we're going to see more and more people saying this is not okay and saying, screw this, we have to be in this together. We're seeing people come out who are going, this is crazy, this is ridiculous, we can't do this. I don't want to get in the political realms again because I'll be here all day. And then the moon in Gemini, still way out of bounds because we're heading to this full moon and it's going really out of bounds. Mercury's still out of bounds. Venus is still out of bounds. Mars is still out of bounds as we head towards this full moon. Cancer full moon, right, by the way, on the sun of the USA. But anyway, it was still on the January the 1st. The moon will square off to Nessus. Toxins, more poisons revealed, more information coming in, more people's perceptions and alliances shifting. It's just insane, to be quite honest, I'm going to say. Sorry, we're still on the 1st. Then the moon will try and carry Chloe, helping us weave the new story. And then we have another big shift as Mercury moves into Capricorn. And we only then have Black Moon Lilith left in Sagittarius, hopping back and forth, kind of raging, saying, I'm revealing all this truth. I'm revealing where you have sidelined us, put us down, shamed us, all those things. But Mercury is now in Capricorn. And look at this Capricorn lineup. And just look how close everything's getting here. Okay, this is getting so intense. And they're out, and there's the out of bounds thing going on too. And I can't believe how far out of bounds the moon is getting, by the way, as we go through this week. So it's going to be a crazy week, indeed. But then, so that's still on the 1st. My God, what a week. Okay. After that, Pholus speaks to the nodes, that 10-degree lineup that I've talked about, with, more things being revealed, more inventory being taken about our values, about relationships at all levels. Gosh. And then asteroid Lilith actually connects with that North Node, saying, we are not going back. Talk to this hand. Okay. And I think that's all I'll mention for the 1st. Let's move on to the 2nd. So we move to Friday, the penultimate day of this week. Leaf forecast, Venus Day. Aptly. You'll see why. Because on January the 2nd, Venus conjuncts Pholus, and that speaks to those nodes. Venus is not just love. Venus is our relationship to all that is. She is our senses. And she is in an underworld journey, learning something new on the other side of the sun, bringing in this new information about our values, our relationships, how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves, how the structures of our world, society, have not supported us, taking that inventory. She conjuncts Pholus. This is just nuts. Okay, again. Whoa. And then the moon, still out, way out of bounds, squares off to Nessus, revealing those, toxins and things. Squares Saturn, sorry, is squared Nessus already, saying, I see we have to dissolve these structures. These structures, these rules are not working. We have to dissolve them and rebuild. And Venus will sextile asteroid Lilith, we're getting all of those things all the time. Then the moon, oh, you see Hygeia has moved back into Gemini, so we're healing our communities, we're healing our thoughts, we're healing our mind, saying that we're going to change this. And the moon will then square off to Neptune as it finishes its journey in Gemini, and we'll move into Cancer. And I am going to move the moon into the sign of Cancer. So the moon will move into Cancer at 8:09 a.m. Eastern on Venus Day, which is Friday. So that's at 8:09 a.m. and just at 9:37 a.m. Chiron stations direct at 22:35 Aries. Now I'm going to stop the share for a little minute because I don't have time to do a separate video on this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that degree because it's a degree we've had activated before. But in numerology, 22 is a master number. It's known as the master builder, representing the ability to manifest grand, ambitious dreams into reality by blending the intuition of 11 with the practicality of a 4, which is a number of stability, right? Also, the 2 is generally seen as the feminine, the curve, whereas 1 is the masculine. So this is a number that can promote balance in relationships and life, drawing on the sensitive and cooperative energy of that number 2. But master numbers are always kind of big responsibility kind of numbers in many ways. So this is high standards, hard work, strong sense of duty to use this power for good, and we are being drawn to that. But I also want to mention the symbols for this because we did notice how that 22 degree mark was aspected over and over again this week. But 22 Aries, so the symbols, I'm going to go up to 23, which we always do with the symbols. So I'm going to first look at Dane Rudhyar's interpretation of the Sabian symbol, but the Sabian symbol is a pregnant woman in a light summer dress. And he said the keynote for this is fecundity. So masculine aggressiveness and the woman's desire for fulfillment are integrated and realized in the expected child. This threefold sequence can be seen operating at several levels. And the third term, the child, can take various emotional and cultural forms. This basic meaning remains the same. Summer is the period of fruition. Man at the receptive, humans he means, at the receptive woman level reaps the fruits of their dynamic activity. And this is suggesting inner fulfillment. What do I keep talking about healing from the inside out? James Burgess he writes the symbol differently as some others do. Woman in pastel colours, carrying a heavy but valuable and veiled load. And some people say the Sabian symbol is a pregnant woman. It's whatever, it's birthing, carrying this birthing of this new load. And so but James Burgess says this is a rich potential of every moment and situation, assertiveness and desire together, masculine, feminine, right? Give birth to creative new possibilities, creative assertiveness towards furtherment of potentials, he says. But then he says, when clear, assertive purpose applies to a field of potential, something else is brought into being. Existence is not sterile, it is brimming with a polarized life force that cannot fail to create new life. Man, woman, child is a pattern that repeats universally as artist, materials, artwork, for example, or ideal, limitation, inventiveness. There's this trinity. Okay. Now, I do want to read John Sandbacher's symbols too. So, Aries 23, the Omega symbol is a painting with countless layers of paint. And he said, there's a degree angel, May sharing the flame healing capacity. The Chandra symbol for this is a bottle labeled Drink Me. So I'm going to read the Omega first. You have a great ability to keep experimenting with a situation until you have found a way to make it work. You're always open to the potential of change, knowing that nothing is set in stone. And even if it seems to be, stone too can be recarved. Everything is open to modification and experimentation, and knowing this is your strength. Now, the bottle labeled Drink Me. Alice in Wonderland, right? The bottle asks you to try something whose results you won't know until you do it, just as the painter applies successive layers of paint to see what will happen. We tend to think it's good to be careful, but not always. This degree has a refreshing lack of caution that most often carries it to surprising and wondrous places. So, this is go time, right? And think we're in this full moon period too. So I just want to read Elias Lonsdale's interpretation of this degree because I think it's really huge, to be honest. The force, looking at the trajectory of everything, where we're going. A bottle labeled Drink Me Again. The force of events sweeps away who we thought we were and plunges us to a deeper place beyond the known. The sheer immediacy, the sudden clarity shifts mountains of intent into a different octave altogether. Being taken by storm is the most direct path from here to there, and when cosmic worlds are urgently coming through, the only smart thing is to step aside and make a huge amount of room for unexpected guests at events you could never have arranged in your wildest dreams. I'm a little bit mind blown by where we're at and what's happening in our consciousness and our collective. So that's Chiron stationing direct. I'm kind of a bit lost as to where I am. Oh, there we are. Was there anything else on the second? Yeah, of course there's more. Right after Chiron stations direct, the moon over here in Cancer now will start to oppose all of these planets in Capricorn, and we're heading towards the full moon. So the full moon is actually on the 3rd. Yes, it is. So the moon, which is our emotions, way out of bounds, almost full, so heightened. Mercury still out of bounds, remember. Venus out of bounds, Mars still out of bounds. All this out of bounds energy starts to oppose each other in the axis of birth to death, spaces of security to elder wisdom. It's all of these things. This is just, so the moon opposes Mercury, opposes Juno, our sacred contracts, then opposes Hecate. In the meantime, we'll also actually make a water trine to regeneration Haumea. And Mercury will conjunct Juno as well. So we're really kind of starting to integrate these changing perceptions and values and ideas, just going back to that interpretation of that Chandra symbol. We are being plunged into a deeper place beyond the known, where we've never been before. Then the moon will square off to Ceres, looking at how our needs have been met. And then we move on to January the 3rd. Wow. The last day. 3rd, I'm just going to move it back to the beginning of the day. Okay, so January the 3rd, the moon is almost full, because here you see the moon is now about to oppose Pholus and Venus and then the sun. But before we have the full moon, the moon speaks to the nodes. We're heading back towards eclipse season, right? The first eclipse is February the 17th. It's a huge one. And so, again, that energy is also getting heightened. We're starting to feel the energy of the eclipse. If you can see, we start this day with the moon joining forces with the nodes and with Pholus and Venus to form this mystic rectangle. And under the heightened energy of all these outer bounds energies and a full moon, which is way out of bounds, we're looking at all of these issues, saying no, we're not going back, knowing we're at a turning point, knowing that things are peaking big style. So then, yeah, the moon opposes Venus, and then we have the full moon. So let me get you. I'm just like, oh my God, can we please? No, it's fine. We're going to be fine. We are kind of in the last throes of this big shift in a lot of ways, in big terms at least. So here is the actual full moon moment on Saturday, January the 3rd, 5:02 a.m. Eastern time. That means it's going to be January the 3rd for most days. And remember, all the cards I pulled, the tarot cards, that is, are all threes. And the full moon is at 13 degrees 01. 13, I think it's the 4th or 5th full moon at 13 degrees, and we've got all these new moons at 28 degrees. 13, the number of the divine feminine, it's one of the Venus Fibonacci sequence numbers. You can go and look that up if you like. But the Fibonacci sequence is related to the Venus cycle. It's known as unlucky because it's the number of the witch, the divine feminine. And look at this when we have this full moon. Venus, Mars, sandwiched either side of the sun, the core of our being. I will do a full moon video, obviously, but I'm just like... And so, of course, then the moon will oppose Mars. And remember, everything's out of bounds too. It's just, this full moon is kind of crazy and intense, but is also shining a really big old light on how the divine feminine has been hurt by the structures of our society. In always, not just women, you know, and the earth and the oceans and all the things that are, you know, earth and water kind of energy and physical senses, all of that. And right after that, the moon, of course, will then trine off to Nessus, revealing more of those poisonous toxins. While we're still under this full moon, the moon will conjunct Jupiter, which is kind of expands everything as well. So we're just really, everything's coming to light. It's just, you know, it's kind of funny seeing all these kind of redactions that were badly done and people realizing they could just copy and paste it into a Google Doc or a Word doc and undo the redactions to see what was redacted, and then they were withdrawn and redacted again. How the power hungry, I'm just going to say, are trying to keep all their nasty games hidden is unbelievable. But I don't think they can anymore. And then just we finished the day. I'm just going to have to move the chart to... So we're still under the full moon, hugely. And then the moon, still full, will square off to Chiron at that 22 degree mark. Still, of course, the potent mark of his station direct. What is going to come to light this week is going to be huge. More and more. We're just going to see more and more stuff, and people are going to wake up and see the light literally under this full moon. It's very eccentric. It's very out beyond the pale, but we're also being invited to do things really differently, to build what we want to see in the world. Okay, on to the numbers. Cards, sorry. Oh my God, I think I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. I'm joking. But before I get to the cards, which I can't remember where I've put... Oh, here they are. On my phone. we'll talk about the number 3 because all the tarot cards are threes, if you remember. So the number 3 signifies creativity, communication, self-expression, social connection. It's linked to artistic talents, optimism, charisma, representing a balance of mind, body, and spirit, or the creative child, resulting from the union of 1 and 2, the divine masculine, divine feminine, and with a strong 3 influence. Oh no, ignore that bit. Anyway, so it's the Trinity, it's the Holy Trinity. Now I'm just going to share quickly the chart again. I've just invited Melanie Reinhardt, who I call the Centaur Queen, to come on my podcast again, and she's agreed, and she's actually going to come on February the 17th when we have the eclipse. All right, so I'm going to put the eclipse chart up, so because that's the only day she could do, literally, or that we could both do. Anyway, February the 17th, here's Okiroe, here's Chiron, and here's Chariklo. Chariklo is approaching a sextile to her husband. So here we have the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and Okiroe is approaching her dad, a conjunction with her dad. So bear with me, one other thing, I want to show you something else. So Okiroe conjunct Chiron, March the 18th. March the 18th, equinox, pretty much. The sun is about to go into Aries. Neptune and Saturn have had their conjunction. We have this trinity: Chiron, the father; Okiroe, the divine child; Eris, table turner, discord. And here's Chariklo at 24 degrees as well. And that's a 6, which is that great mother number. More I'll say about that later. But this is, again, just things are, this is by the spring, you can see that we have nothing pretty much left in Capricorn. Juno, Pholus, that's it. Even all the Aquarius stuff has moved on. Venus is way out of beams of the sun. These are no longer out of bounds. Mars is no longer under the beams of the sun. Mercury is having its first retrograde of the year, no longer under the beams of the sun, but also no longer out of bounds. Things are coming, people. I have to tell you, it's just... Anyway, but that divine child story really feels potent, right, on this Chiron Station Direct and where we're going. But it's about healing all those threes, like I said. Mind, body, spirit, all of the things. Interconnectedness, okay. All right, so the first card is the 3 of Discs. Earth, Pentacles, 3 of Discs. And in this deck, it's the discs. So, bear with me. I have marked the pages. 3 of Discs is bountiful industry. I am my work. This is really saying work is a huge part of who you are. It's not just what you do, it's how you express yourself. Do what you love and love what you do. Your calling in life reveals your only true work. Most of us put a great deal of time into work, not only because we have to work so many hours to make a living, but because work is central to the soul's opus. But I'm going to say in this context, this is not just about your day job necessarily. This is about your greater work in the world, what you feel that is. With this 3, that's such a creative number, right? Okay, 3 of Cups. I am joy. Operate from joy. Bring all of you, mind, body, spirit, into it. Only do what brings you joy. So your heart is wide open to receiving and giving. Here lies love that is warmly wrapped up in deep gratitude, generosity, appreciation, and happiness. Okay, and then the Queen. This is Pacify, which was Ariadne's mother, I think, or sister, whichever. Anyway, this is all part of the marriage. This is a time of fertile birth, okay? Actually, it was her mother, because that's, yeah, that's the Minotaur. But anyway, this is I Am Nurture. This is series, really. And remember we had that line up? Moon, Cups. What was the other one? Well, everything was that moved into Earth signs as well, which is the discs. That was at 6. And we have the 3s here. And the 369 code was Nikola Tesla's thing of if you understand 369 code. I can't remember the quote, but anyway, this is I Am Nurture, and this is a time of fertile birth. The caring queen will help you birth your new beginnings that have been conceived and gestating within you. And lastly, or last but not least, the Wonder Hunter card from the Witch Oracle deck. Wonder is the state of our original self. Babies gaze at the world with wide eyes, taking in every marvel. Somehow, as we grow, that sense is overwhelmed by practical concerns and survival skills. By fitting in, by finding a way to conform to the demands of our environment. But the wonder never really leaves. It may go underground for a time, but you can feel it when gazing at the moon, the stars, the micro-universe of a single flower in all its detail. Wonder is nourishing to the soul and keeps our child heart alive and thriving. To live in wonder is to allow ourselves to experience our own belonging to ourselves, to the world itself, and to the great mystery of all things. Now is the time to put practical concerns to one side and allow yourself to marvel. Take a walk in nature and observe the many tiny miracles around you. Search the clouds for friendly shapes, or sit by a river and listen to its babbling stories. A witch knows she cannot live by logic or emotion alone. She is aware that the wide world is a never-ending story full of surprises and splendors. She trusts that the universe, in its benign generosity, conspires to delight her. So she takes time to open her heart wide to receive blessings, both tiny and great. Mostly this looks like standing in awe, willing to be astonished. As Kafka once said, remain sitting at your table and listen. Do not even listen, simply wait. Be quiet, still, and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. I feel it. I hope you do too. And if you're not, take this holiday time to be in that wonder at the world and know that we can create something that will meet everybody, that will bring us together, that masculine, feminine, child, trinity, mind, body, soul. Ah, what a time we are in. Mwah. Happy Christmas or holidays, whatever.